So if I told you that getting married in Illinois could cost you like hundreds of thousands of dollars, even if the relationship ultimately doesn't work out, would you still do it?
I mean, you'd probably say absolutely not. It's an incredibly uncomfortable question to even ask because nobody walking down the aisle wants to look at the exit door.
Right. But millions of people do it every year because, well, they think marriage is this ultimate romantic milestone. It's the dress, the cake, the vows. But legally speaking, it's arguably the most dangerous financial contract you will ever sign. So today, in this deep dive, we are skipping the romance entirely.
Yeah, we're putting all the flowers aside for this one.
Exactly. We're looking strictly at the mechanics. We want to know, what does a marriage license actually do in the state of Illinois? What are the hidden risks that literally no one talks about until it's just way too late?
The sheer disconnect between the emotional illusion of marriage and the structural reality of it is just staggering. You think you're tying your heart to someone, but legally you are fusing your finances, your decision making, and really your future liability to another human being.
Let's unpack that disconnect a little bit, because there's this deeply ingrained cultural myth, I think, that marriage somehow solves relationship problems. Like you cross this magical finish line at the altar and suddenly everything stabilizes.
Oh, exactly. It's that if we just get married, things will settle down mindset. But legally speaking, the contract does not solve problems. It actually amplifies them.
Wait, amplifies them how?
Well, it takes a really fluid relationship and
Yeah.
locks it into a rigid legal structure before you've even, agreed on the basics of life.
Because realistically, most couples haven't ironed out every single detail, right? They haven't completely aligned on how to manage money or lifestyle expectations, or even something as simple as who pays for the groceries versus who pays the mortgage.
Right. And when you're just dating, an argument over someone's, let's say, reckless credit card habit, that's just an emotional disagreement. You can try to fix it or, you can just walk away.
You just pack your stuff and leave.
Exactly. But the moment you sign that legal contract, those emotional disagreements sort of mutate into severe financial liabilities. You are locked in. The contract you sign is heavily optimized for how it ends.
I have to push back a little here, though. Because, I mean, aren't we just blaming the institution of marriage for people picking bad partners?
Yeah.
Like, if you marry someone responsible, the contract shouldn't feel like a trap, right? It just kind of sits in the background.
That is a very common defense. People say that all the time. But it fundamentally misses the reality of what the contract actually is. The risk we are talking about is baked into the ink on the page.
So it's not about the person.
Not at all. It actually does not matter how good the partner is or how well-intentioned you both are on your wedding day. You are entering a mechanical system that dictates the rules of separation. If the relationship fails for any reason, and, people change over time, the state of Illinois has a pre-written script for exactly how your life will be dismantled.
Wow. Okay, so if the state has this pre-written script, let's look at what that script does to the money you thought was yours. Because reading through our sources for this deep dive, the numbers are just staggering.
They really are.
Let's walk you, the listener, through a specific scenario. Let's call it the $1 million illusion. And just a quick note to you listening, we're using big numbers here just to make the math really obvious. But keep in mind, this exact same math applies whether you have $1 million saved up or just like $10,000 in a checking account.
Right. The legal principles do not care about the number of zeros. So imagine you go into a marriage with $1 million. This could be savings from a decade of just grinding at your job, maybe a smart investment portfolio, or the proceeds from selling a house you bought in your 20s.
Okay, so it is entirely your money. You bring it into the marriage.
Yes. Then, during the marriage, you and your spouse work, and together you build another $1 million in shared marital wealth. So looking at the big picture, there is a total of $2 million tied up in your lives.
So if I'm looking at this logically, I assume that in the worst case scenario, like we decide to divorce, we just split the $1 million we built together, 50-50.
That's what everyone assumes.
Right. So I give $500,000, I keep my $500,000, and I walk away with the original $1 million I brought into the marriage. It feels like a clean, logical break.
And that logical assumption is exactly how people end up financially ruined. Because that is not how it works in Illinois. In Illinois, the court divides the marital estate based on what is considered fair, not equal, fair.
Wait, fair according to whom? Because, I mean, my definition of fair and my ex's definition of fair are going to be wildly different.
Oh, completely different. It's fair according to a judge who does not know you, who is looking at a highly condensed, snapshot of your financial life, and they are applying the state's criteria for equitable distribution.
Equitable distribution.
Right. And fairness in the eyes of the state can mean awarding a massive portion, sometimes even all of the marital estate, to one spouse. The judge weighs factors like earning capacity, age, health, and future financial needs.
So you could literally spend 10 years building that shared wealth, just grinding away, and a judge could just look at the situation and say, actually, fairness dictates your spouse gets 70% of this pot. Just like that.
Just like that. It happens every day, but it actually gets worse.
How does it get worse than losing 70% of your shared money?
Because the chilling reality is that the original $1 million you brought into the marriage, the money you thought was completely untouchable, isn't nearly as protected as you think. It is subject to something called transmutation.
Transmutation. I mean, that sounds like a chemistry term.
It basically is. Think of your premarital savings as this big glass of clear water.
Okay, clear water.
If you commingle those funds, so say you have a separate account with that $1 million and you deposit just one $500 paycheck from your current job into it.
Wait, just one paycheck?
Just one. Or maybe you use a chunk of that savings to pay down the joint mortgage for a couple months.
Oh, no, I see where this is going.
Yeah. You have just dropped a drop of food coloring into the water. You have contaminated the whole pot. You cannot separate it back out.
Wow.
The state now views that entire original account as a joint marital asset. Suddenly, the money you bled for before you even met this person is on the chopping block to be divided equitably.
That is, I mean, it's honestly terrifying. It's kind of like signing up for a massive corporate merger, right? Where the rules for dissolving the company are just kept in a locked drawer.
Oh, absolutely. And you don't get the key until the company is already failing.
Exactly. In a corporate merger, lawyers spend months drafting exit clauses. They know exactly who gets the intellectual property, who gets the office chairs, how the revenue is split if the partnership dissolves.
Right, it's all mapped out.
But in a marriage, you sign a one-page document at the county clerk's office, and you are implicitly agreeing to hundreds of pages of state statutes you have never even read. You are just completely blinding yourself to the dissolution rules.
That is the perfect analogy. And so if a judge can legally hand over the savings you brought into the marriage just because of a commingling technicality, what stops them from going after the money you haven't even earned yet?
Nothing, I'm guessing.
Nothing at all. And that brings us to the income trap, maintenance, which most people still call alimony.
Let's really walk through how this actually functions, because the mechanics here seem just as rigid as the asset division.
They are. So let's set up another specific scenario for you. Let's say you are a high earner. You're bringing in $250,000 a year.
Okay. Doing well.
Doing very well. Your spouse is earning $80,000 a year. You have been married for 10 years, and, the relationship has just run its course. You decide to divorce.
Right. And again, the common sense assumption is that you just go your separate ways. Like, we both have jobs, we both have incomes. You take your 80 grand, I'll take my 250 grand. We sell the house, split the couch, and we move on.
That is exactly what people think. But the crushing reality is that in Illinois, with that specific level of income disparity and a 10-year marriage, you may owe maintenance. You might be ordered to write a check for thousands of dollars every single month to your ex-spouse.
Every month. For how long?
For years. In Illinois, the duration of maintenance is directly tied to the length of the marriage. So a 10-year marriage could easily mean paying maintenance for 4, 5, or sometimes even more years.
But I'm trying to wrap my head around the justification for this. What if it's a completely mutual split? Like, nobody cheated, nobody did anything malicious, nobody hid money. Does someone still just automatically get a massive cut of your future labor? Like, where is the moral fault?
You have to completely remove the concept of moral fault, or even the word deserve, from the conversation entirely.
Really?
Yes. The law does not care about your moral framework. It has absolutely nothing to do with who is right, who is wrong, or who is the better partner. It is purely about how the structural system of the Illinois marriage contract operates.
So how does this system possibly justify it?
The system looks at the standard of living that was established during the marriage, and it attempts to equalize the financial reality post-divorce. It is just a mathematical equalization. It views the marriage as an economic partnership.
So if your income elevated the household's lifestyle, The state says you cannot suddenly drop your partner's lifestyle back to the floor just because the marriage ends.
Exactly. You are subsidizing their standard of living with your future income. Money you haven't even earned yet is already earmarked for a relationship that no longer exists.
Because my income paid for the nicer cars and, like,
Yeah.
the better vacations during the marriage.
Right.
And what if something happens? What if I get laid off?
Mhm.
Am I still legally bound to pay that $4,000 a month?
Yes, you are. Until you go back to court and officially prove a substantial change in circumstances to a judge, which of course costs you more attorney fees. You can't just decide to stop paying.
Man, that is a tough pill to swallow. So you're bleeding the assets you save through equitable distribution, and your future income is actively being compromised by monthly maintenance payments. But looking at the sources we have for this series, just the mechanical process of getting out of the contract, the actual divorce itself, is a financial ruin.
Oh, the toll at the exit door.
Yeah, let's talk about the friction of this, because I really don't think people realize how fast the meter runs when a divorce turns unamicable.
If you want to talk about friction, this is where the system just grinds people down to the bone. Because it's not just, a few court dates and some paperwork. It's like trying to untangle a massive knot of wires in the dark, where pulling one string tightens a knot somewhere else.
And every single time you pull a string, you're paying a lawyer $300 to $500 an hour to watch you do it.
Precisely. Let's assume you and your spouse don't agree on the division of that $2 million estate we talked about earlier. Or maybe you are arguing over the maintenance calculation. Now, you both need attorneys. And that hourly rate isn't just for standing in front of a judge in a courtroom.
Right, it's for the everyday friction.
It is for every single email they read from your spouse's lawyer. It's for every 15-minute phone call you make to them just to vent about what your ex texted you last night. Every single legal motion they draft and file.
I'm just doing the math here, like a few emails a day, a couple of phone calls a week. That's thousands of dollars a month just in communication.
It accelerates incredibly fast, and the timeline is grueling. This is not a process that wraps up in a month. It drags on for months, sometimes well over a year. There's this whole period of discovery where both sides demand absolute transparency. They want every bank statement from the last decade, every credit card receipt, every tax return.
It sounds like sheer paranoia. And your lawyer is charging you $400 an hour to review your own 10-year-old bank statements.
Yes. Think about the psychological toll of that.
Mm.
Imagine having to explain a $200 ATM withdrawal from 2019 to opposing counsel.
That's insane.
It is entirely normal. In fact, it's expected in contested cases to spend tens of thousands of dollars each simply to unwind the relationship. And think about the profound tragedy of that. You are draining the exact same pool of marital assets you are fighting over just to pay the professionals to divide whatever's left.
Okay, I have to pause here and play devil's advocate for a second. Because if everything we've just laid out is true, it really makes you wonder why anyone ever signs this contract at all. Listeners might be feeling completely cynical right now. There have to be real, tangible legal benefits to getting married, right? The state must offer something in return for all this liability.
Of course. And we do need to balance the scales here. The state does offer a package of legal perks when you get married.
Right, like inheritance rights. If my spouse passes away, I am legally protected to inherit their estate without a massive legal fight.
Yes.
There's medical decision-making. I can make choices for them in the hospital. And there are tax filing advantages depending on the income split, access to a spouse's health insurance plan,
Yeah.
Social Security survivor benefits, the ability to claim a portion of their pension. I mean, these are very real, very lucrative perks.
They are real. But if we analyze this critically, we have to look at the cost-to-benefit ratio, because here's the real revelation that most people completely miss. Many of these supposed exclusive benefits of marriage can be easily recreated without a marriage license.
Wait, recreated how? Like outside of the family court system?
Yes, completely outside of it. With basic, inexpensive legal documents, you want inheritance rights, you don't need a marriage license, you just draft a will or establish a trust.
Okay.
You want medical decision-making power, you sign a healthcare power of attorney, you want your partner to manage your finances if you are somehow incapacitated. A durable power of attorney handles that perfectly.
Wait, so let me get this straight. I could go to an estate planning attorney, pay them maybe, what, $1,500 or $2,000 once, and get a tailored package of documents that grants my partner the bulk of those protections.
Exactly. You pay a one-time flat fee to a lawyer to draft a specific, heavily boundaried set of protections.
And by doing that, I gain the protections, But I don't take on the unlimited unknown liability of a $35 marriage license.
Correct.
I don't expose my premarital savings to equitable distribution. I don't expose my future income to statutory maintenance. So basically, for $1,500, I get a moat around my assets. For $35, I get a Trojan horse.
That is exactly it. You are comparing a fixed $1,500 cost with clear boundaries against a $35 entry fee that just opens you up to hundreds of thousands of dollars in potential structural liability. The math is incredibly sobering.
Wow. Weighing the easily replicated benefits of a tailored estate plan against the devastating open-ended exit costs of a marriage license really leads to one inescapable conclusion about this whole system.
It leads to the core takeaway of our deep dive today. This is the thesis we need everyone to truly internalize. Marriage is incredibly easy to enter and extremely expensive to exit.
You literally walk into a county office, pay a tiny fee, show your ID, and you're in. It takes 20 minutes.
But unwinding it takes months, sometimes years, costs tens of thousands of dollars in fees, and it dictates the trajectory of your financial future for decades. You aren't just tying your heart to someone. You are connecting your finances, your time, and your future options to a very inflexible legal system.
So if you were listening to this and you were thinking about getting married, the most important question isn't, do I love this person? Love is great. Love is essential for a relationship. But the question you must ask yourself before you sign that paper is, do I actually understand the contract I am signing?
Because the state of Illinois assumes you do. And ignorance of how the marital estate is divided or how maintenance is calculated will absolutely not save you in divorce court.
This has been heavy, but it is so necessary. And really, this is just the beginning. In the upcoming deep dives in this series, we're going to get incredibly tactical.
Yes. Next time, we will walk step by step through exactly how divorce works in Illinois. We will break down exactly how property is actually divided, what counts as marital versus non-marital. We will look at exactly how maintenance is calculated by the courts.
And most importantly, we are going to look at what smart people do to protect themselves before they sign the license. Prenuptial agreements, asset protection, basically how to structure your life so you don't become a cautionary tale. So be sure to follow the show so you don't miss those deep dives. And honestly, share this specific deep dive with anyone you know who is walking down the aisle soon. They really need to hear this before they sign.
Knowledge is the only way to navigate a system this complex. You have to understand the mechanics before you engage the gears.
Absolutely. Now, to wrap up today, I want to leave you with a thought, a slightly provocative question for you to mull over. We've talked so much about the hidden rules of this contract and how the state of Illinois has a pre-written script for your divorce. But imagine a completely different world. What if the law required couples to sit down and negotiate their exact terms of divorce, like how they'd split the house, who gets alimony, who pays the debts, before they were legally allowed to get a marriage license? How do you think that would change the romance of the wedding day? Would it completely ruin the magic? Or would it actually be the most honest, unbreakable foundation a couple could possibly build? Think about it. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.